Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. And I'm going to need a sound check. We'll see how this is rolling here. It looks good. We're spinning, and it looks okay. Sound check, audio, all that. Sounds good here. There you go. I'm going to do this solo here for a little while because I got a lot to say. I'll make sure one more time that we're good. Good. Okay. I am whooped from 2 days of turkey hunting, and I was on cloud 9. A total hero for what I pulled off down here. And we get a little more volume. Oh my God, here we go. I was just on a roll, and Larry needs more volume. Okay. Guys, are we sticklers or are we good to go? Anyhow, right after I got off the Cloud 9 thing, I get a phone call from a very close personal friend who is the attorney defending Eddie Gallagher. So, before I start running off here the way I'm going to, we're good. I'm going to spew a bit about this Gallagher thing because I have held my tongue. And it ain't been easy because I know what's going on. And then I'm going to get into my boys. And then I'm going to get back to Eddie Gallagher. And there is one word in the English language used in the Navy frequently to describe the guys responsible for Eddie Gallagher's demise. And I don't think anybody really uses the term faggot to refer to somebody as actually being a homosexual. That's what it's linked with. That word is used to describe utter disgust and disdain for what you have done. And I don't think any time I've used that word I've actually meant to refer to that guy as being gay, anything like that. And I'll get into those guys responsible, but there's nothing that comes to mind in the English language except that word for those clowns out there. So I'll calm down first with my boys. I'm doing really good. We're really whooped. The colonels came down. Colonel, Distinguished Flying Cross, Vietnam, shot down. And he brought those boys down here with him. And I love those boys. So we're going to go turkey hunting, and this is where Extreme Seal Adventures is really taking shape. If I'd have grown up on a ranch in Colorado or something, or Montana, and had a family history and a family business of taking guys out for elk hunts and fishing trips and just stuff like that, something that had been ingrained and had been developed over years and years, and decided one day to turn that into a charity, okay, how hard is that? This is tough here. To show up on this property and the patience and donations and everything everybody's done down here to kick this off while I study, lurk, look, and do everything. I've said that this year is our big year. And I'm not going to miss a single hunt. I have perfected this place. And it's certainly started with spring turkey season for an 11-year-old boy and his 13-year-old brother. And I made some mistakes. I did. But we pulled that shit off. The biggest mistake I had is the two colonels were coming with them. The grandfather's a retired Army helicopter pilot colonel from Vietnam. His son is a Army colonel, active duty. His wife, the son's wife, is an active duty Army colonel, and they have the grandsons. Well, they're moving in a new house, so either way, the grandfather brings the two grandsons up here, and we had them here for a fantastic duck and goose hunt this year. Those boys, I couldn't think of it. They're just aggressive, eager, friendly, polite. They eat everything Diane puts out. They are just perfect. So I invited them up for a turkey hunt. Well, the father was supposed to come. So my plan was to put the grandfather and the father in a blind where they could film this turkey hunt from a distance. But the father was moving into a new house. He couldn't come. They built a new house. So the grandfather brought them. And I felt terrible. He's a great guy. Very interesting. But I can't put him in a blind 30 yards from us to watch this shit. So we went down that night after rehearsals. We shot targets, we did everything, and then we got in that little blind, which is the size of a submarine trunk. If you want to know about claustrophobia, get in a submarine trunk. And I said, I got to get him in here with us. So the four of us got in that blind, that little bitty blind, and it was going to be okay, because I felt really confident that some things were going to start happening really early with the trail camera pictures of these turkeys that were all over us. And we squeezed our asses in that blind that morning, and anything but that happened. That shit went on for hours of turkeys busting us, uncomfortable, shifting positions, trying to get circulation through your legs. Terrible mistake. The biggest mistake of it is my inexperienced turkey hunting. And I'll tell you where the turkey thing, I got on this thing about how I just know a little bit about everything. I don't know if I told this story on here before, but when I was running SEAL tactical training many, many years ago, a BUDS class graduated, came through, and there were two guys in that class, Hoffman and Bullabon, and they were inseparable. They were two Southern boys. I really think they joined the Navy together and went. They were just like, they might as well have glued those two clowns together. And while we were running land warfare, the final thing were operations where they would go out overnight and they would do all these things. And it's called a layup point, where when the sun starts coming up, you need to find some place to hide. Thick jaggers, shit like all that. And these two clowns were calling turkeys into the layup point with 10 other SEALs in there, calling them in. And I was captivated by that shit. And I'd never turkey hunted. I never did any of that. And they were using these mouth diaphragms, and I asked for a lesson. And they got me one. They gave me one. And I learned how to blow that thing for no particular reason. I don't know what. And that story turns tragic. Hoffman and Bullabon graduate STT. They are deployed with SEAL Team 8 on an amphibious ship. They are overseas somewhere. They go out and they get drunk that night. It's a terrible story, but I'll tell it. They hook up with some midshipman, and they want to show off. And they bring him back on board the ship. They go down to the armory, the Connex box that we had, where all the weapons were, everything. And I think it was Hoffman. Hoffman pulled out a 9mm pistol, showing it off for this midshipman drunk, put it up to Bullabon's head and pulled the trigger, and it was loaded, and he killed him right there. I still think he's in prison. Anyhow, that's where I learned to blow that turkey call. It was a terrible, terrible incident in SEAL Team from young guys. Going to lead me into this Eddie Gallagher thing just a little bit. So I watch all the turkey shows. I watch YouTube videos. I do all this shit. And one of the things that they did is a guy recommended you take an actual fan from a dead turkey that you got and you dried out and make that turkey decoy more realistic by putting that fan on. And I did that. I had a little Jake decoy out there and a couple little hen decoys, and I put that dried turkey fan on there. And the next thing we know, turkeys are showing up all over the place, and they're taking one look at that decoy and they are bolting. They wanted nothing to do with it. And I can't figure out why. The hunting shows that said that weren't quite explanatory in what kind of fan you want to use. And I was using a Tom turkey, my first turkey down here, the biggest one, a big Tom turkey fan instead of a young 1 or 2 year old Jake. And those turkeys took one look at that big strutting tom and they bolted. They wanted nothing to do with that thing. And it took me a little while to figure that out. I'd call my brother-in-law and stuff. But we were in that blind, all head over, guns everywhere. They're trying to get the guns out of the, it was just a total mess. And at the end of the day, we have 7 turkeys all over us, but none of them want to get anywhere near that big, strutting tom turkey. But 2 young ones decided they had enough balls to even come near that thing. And I had that little boy, he was the only one that had a shot, and they went up close where he could get it, and then they turned and they started to haul ass. They didn't want any part of getting their ass beat by that big tom turkey, and he shot once and killed 2 of them. Don't ask me how the hell he did it. Turkeys went everywhere, and the other boy did not get a shot. He was just hunkered back while his brother stuck that barrel out of there. And I felt terrible. I felt elated, overjoyed. You know, I had accomplished it, but I wanted them both to get one. And so I elected to take the other boy that didn't get it out today and throw the Hail Mary out there. I'm whooped. Now that was a long day in that blind, a lot of adrenaline, a lot of concentration, a lot of watching, and just it's very tough to do, to lure a turkey in close enough that you can get him with a shotgun. It's no small feat. And I took that other boy out there today, and just it wasn't working. It was working. The birds. And all of a sudden, at one of the very last moment, I looked up, and there was that big ass strutting turkey, and I grabbed that little boy right by his head and just twisted him. And when he saw that thing, he couldn't see it till I pointed, and then I felt his whole body. Now you've seen that turkey. It's a big strutting ass tom, and that damn turkey screwed around with us for 20 minutes. That's how old and how wise that bird was, while I did just everything gently. Please don't let this boy go home without a bird and his brother have 2. And 20 minutes of just painstaking, motionless activity, and that bird got close enough, and he took that shot and dumped it. That bird weighed 25 pounds. Any turkey hunters out there, had an 11-inch beard. He was a monster. That bird probably never would have survived the summer on his own if he had not been shot. That's how old that turkey was. Very smart turkey. He was even blind in one eye from years of fighting and getting spurred in there, but he was no dummy. That was one savvy bird, and he gave it up. So they all went home with birds, and I'm just elated. I mean, I'm just elated with this. I used every call. Medrick on here has sent me that wing bone call, and to lure that old bird in, I used every call I had. Just little yelps trying to make it sound like there's some hens in here, you know, were different sounding birds, and it worked. I don't know how I did it, but I got that little boy on the golf cart, and we were driving up, just me and him. And I said, your brother got 2, but you smoked him with the biggest old wise bird. I said, you smoked him. And I said, I said, and what am I? What am I out of all this? He said, I don't know. And I said, I'm a hero. So we pulled that off. Diane did a great job here with all the food, and everything went really well. They're on their way back to Virginia now with a bunch of turkeys. So we are set for fishing season, the teal season, the dove season. This is where it all ends here. All the work has come together to be able to pull off something like that. And I think this Maryland's got these fantastic youth hunts, and people are just falling off the map with all this hunting. You know, it's getting terrible out there, the people that are giving it up and starting these boys, and that tradition will carry on. So Maryland's got a great youth program. Just the kids under 16 can hunt. So Mad Dog's grandson, who was up here a couple of years ago as a youth, is not a youth anymore. He was up here duck and goose hunting for a Maryland youth duck and goose hunt. He's coming back up here for the adult hunt, turkey. I got to pull this off one more time. So, wish me luck. There you go. I did take the... So, we had it. It was great. Tim Palator is an attorney, a JAG officer. He was a lieutenant commander when he came to Extreme SEAL Experience. Just wanted to challenge himself. A very well-spoken, talented, very educated guy. He was a JAG officer, and he got out of the Navy, worked for a law firm, and then decided to go out on his own. Tim is the guy that defended the dude that decided to climb up the new World Trade Center building and skydive off of that thing. It made headlines around the world. And I knew that Tim had taken over the defense for Eddie Gallagher. And I talked to Tim today. I've kept it really tight about how I feel about the whole thing, but I knew what had happened. I was a platoon chief, and I was an extremely aggressive platoon. I can't tell you. I was wrapped too tight for SEAL team in a way that most SEALs never were. Extremely, I'll just say it, talented, aggressive, and I could get it done. I did things that most other chiefs and shit like that would back away from real quick. I'll let Shipley do it. You know, we don't want to touch any of this shit. I would do it. I wasn't afraid of anything. Very capable, and that's what Gallagher is. He's extremely aggressive, very dynamic, and there is always somebody wanting to knock you off of that pedestal. And when you deal with thoroughbreds, SEALs in the Navy, when you let them out of their cages from buds and you put them into SEAL team, everybody thinks they know. That's what we really hard on new guys there. And then when you complete your first cruise, we refer to you as a one cruise wonder. You don't know shit. You are not going to know shit until you've knocked out a number of deployments, and you're never going to know shit until you rise up those senior ranks as an enlisted SEAL or an officer, and just been there and done that. And when you're a really aggressive guy, unaggressive people or junior frogmen who don't know what you're doing, who don't approve of what you're doing, there's always some guys ready to knock you off that post. And that's what happened to Brian Losey. I served under Admiral Losey when he was a young lieutenant. And what a great guy, and what he get in shit for, and ultimately got his star back for, is just that. Oh, he doesn't talk to us nice. I read an analogy the other day about I think it was Chesty Puller. What would Chesty Puller do invading Iwo Jima if you didn't talk to me? General Puller, you're not talking to me nice, and I don't approve of it, and I'm going to report you. Shut the fuck up and hit that beach, little piece of shit. There's no time for some of it, especially like an admiral. Eddie Gallagher, and this is from Tim, and I already knew a bunch of this shit. He never did any of that. He never did any of that. He had what I'd refer to, and what he did, as Millennium SEALs. New guys with a hard-on, who did not like the mission they were assigned to, and did not like the chief that they were assigned to, because he was too aggressive. I guess there was a lot of daylight raids that were going on in ISIS. These are 1 and 2 cruise guys. Eddie had done 8 combat deployments, and he was aggressive. And a lot of the details are trickling out. The court-martial is in 40 days, and I never thought he would not get off. He's ruined by a couple of faggots. And I don't refer to those guys in any kind of homosexual thing. I just can't find another word to describe my distaste for what you guys did. You had a problem with your platoon chief for the mission that he was doing. forcing you guys into these daylight raids and being aggressive because he knew what he was doing, and you didn't like that shit. And you made up a bunch of shit. You told a bunch of fucking stories about him stealing power bars, which is total. This is where all this goes. And shooting at innocent civilians and stabbing an ISIS fighter to death. And none of that happened. None of it. They did not want Gallagher to promote to senior chief. That's what he was being promoted for. He was transferring to a training detachment that those guys were going to have to go through their next workup and go through his training course in another platoon, and they did not want him to get a Silver Star. And they made that shit up. And they had no idea how big it was going to get, what these little accusations were going to do. And the next thing that happens, it turns into a murder charge. And they're all sorry. And I couldn't give a shit anymore. And he's going after them. They're not out of this shit yet. And it only reminds me of the Blackwater guys that were killed in Fallujah and hung off of that bridge. And the court-martial that happened afterwards of punching that terrorist in his face. It wasn't even a punch, it was he had a cut on his lip. He had a bruised lip. And that came from some snotty little shitty master at arms that worked the gulag that they were holding these guys in. When those filthy fucking SEALs showed up wearing blue jeans, beards, the cool machine guns, wrung out from capturing this guy, and maybe they talked to him, talked a little bit down to him. So what's he do? He says they abused that prisoner. He got the shitty end of that stick when everything came out. I'm just going to do a little something to get you guys in trouble because I'm a little jealous of what you're doing, and maybe you talked down to me a little bit. And so they court-martialed those SEALs on December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day for the Navy. And this is no different. Just a couple of little guys got together and decided to fuck their platoon chief because that's the kind of shit that happens. Gallagher was extremely aggressive. So I'll share some of what I can. Their missions were daylight raids into these ISIS-held buildings, and Gallagher was going in there first. And they were going to kill every son of a bitch in that place. And the daylight thing was a problem, and guys were resentful, and they were resentful that Gallagher was just fearless and led them in, and I don't think any of them got a single ding on them. And one of the targets got to be too much, and they called in and dropped a hellfire on that thing, and they killed everybody in the building except one guy. One guy survived that, and that was that 17-year-old ISIS fighter. And when the Iraqis got done abusing that dude and interrogating him, he said that he was an ISIS fighter, that he was 17, that his father forbid him from joining ISIS, and he blew him off. The only guy that lived through that thing. And when Gallagher was done putting chest tubes in that kid to save his life and traking him, because the hellfire killed him. That's the bottom line. The hellfire killed him. He was on his way out. Eddie posed with a picture holding a hunting knife over this guy. In bad taste, but that's SEAL taste. That's what's going to happen when they subject you to these endless, thankless combat deployments. You're so frustrated with these rules of engagement and people trying to screw you from frustration, or whatever. And it was in poor taste. But it has turned into quite a piece of evidence of him being accused of stabbing that guy. There's no blood on his hands. There's no blood on that knife. There was nothing. He was not stabbed. There's nothing. That picture that Gallagher asked somebody to take of him over that guy is the best piece of evidence that they got going, that he did nothing. and that this turned into some kind of crazy, we just don't like our platoon chief. And there's a whole lot more to it. It's coming out, but I can't think of a better guy than Palator to defend him. And Gallagher's wife has come out, because there's no shortage of jerk-offs all over the world, whether you're in the military or not, that are starting all these funds for Fund Eddie Gallagher and all this shit, and they're fucking scams. Eddie's defense thing, and Palator's got quite a deal. He lives in New York. He's doing all this in San Diego. It's a huge case, and he's all over it. The only fund that you can trust is Navy SEALs Fund, and that's run by another pipe-swinging SEAL, Drago, who's been in a number of my videos with Team 2, the Polish SEAL, one of the oldest guys to ever go through BUDS training, locked up in a Polish gulag, and a smuggler. He smuggled cigarettes, furs, teach you how to swallow money to get it past the Russian guards and all this. He's a crazy guy, and he does a really good job. So the only defense fund out there for Gallagher that needs to be even considered is the Navy SEALs Fund. There's no telling where any of the other of this money is going. Court-martial in 40-some days, and he's going to kick it in the ass, and then he's going to go after the rest of those guys. And there was some disgruntlement in the leadership when Trump got Gallagher released from the brig. There was some real resentment that Trump intervened, and that Gallagher got kind of sent back to a more confining place than where Trump had got him, and that was all sour grapes. And heads are going to roll over this. We eat our young. So I can't think of a better term than faggot for those little pussy punk millennium SEALs who decided to screw their platoon chief. And trust me, I have seen it, and I've been on the receiving end of little maniacal little Billy bastards or senior guys that don't know any better, that because they can't or they won't throw the blue chips up there, they'll take someone down that does and try to come out smelling like a little bit of a rose. I'm gonna show you, and this is what I'm gonna do. And Tim said he talked to Gallagher about us, and he knows me and Diane, so he'll be okay. He will be okay. I have had enough. So, are any of those little Millennium SEALs that did that to him homosexual? Not in any way what that word is designed to do. That's just an utter, there's no other word to describe you, you little prick. Faggots. For doing that to him. There you have it. The turkey hunt into this, and so I don't know. We'll catch up. Are you too sick to come over after I've blown my gasket on this one? What a perfect day, and then to hear that, but then to know that he is in really good hands. So, I think I'm gonna pull the old ball and chain in here. I think the colonel will be home here in a little while. They rolled out of here with 3 turkeys worth of meat and just some happy little boys who are never going to stop telling those stories. Shoot him.
Hello, everybody.
There she is.
There I am.
Okay, now you got to pipe up.
Boy, I'm really low.
No, I've raised your seat up there because I just didn't. I'm just pushing it down. I think you're fine now. I ate in the blind with that little boy. We were in there for a long time. It's I told him, if you watch the video, those 2 little boys, it's stick and stay and make them pay. If you're going to hunt and expect to get something, you had better be prepared to stick it out. There's no breaks for lunch. There's no going anywhere. You're going to stay in this thing. And I proved it to him once for the duck and the goose hunt. And I did it again for the turkeys. And anybody else that's going to come down here had better be prepared for me, because I am extraordinarily aggressive out there. And if you want your birds, you're going to stay in the blind and shut up. Right?
Yeah.
25-pound turkey. That bugger was old. So where are we at?
The cream has been working great on my knee. Thank you very much. And man, we are having a really good spring weather here. It's just been warm and nice, and we've been sitting out on our screen porch every evening, and then I get on here and I see some of the shit you guys are going through. I'm so sorry. I know you all are so sick of that snow. I couldn't believe it. Somebody up here had 6 inches of snow in the springtime.
There you go.
And Chuck's got snow.
And there's a Warrior canine lover, and God bless you for those shotguns. I thought that little boy was going to use it. His grandfather somehow put him on a 12 gauge. But those fantastic weapons you said. Warrior's not coming near the house. He was I felt so bad for him, because I knew what was going to happen. He loves those little boys. He loves the grandfather. He remembered them from the duck hunt. He went nuts when they were here, and I had to shut those sliding glass doors on him in the morning, not once but twice, and listen to him cry. But he has got a turkey carcass out there. The old bird that we did, I showed the boys how to breast it, take the legs, the neck, gizzards, liver, heart, and gave that to Warrior, and he has not budged from it. He doesn't want a thing to do with it.
Well, he has budged from it, because now there is a vulture flying overhead, and he is chasing that vulture off.
He's not coming in here. He's not letting anyone near that thing until he's good and damn ready to eat it, and he will. So, thanks again,
Greg Scott says he passed out twice from dehydration in the blind.
Who?
Greg.
What does that mean? Oh, me? I don't want to hear any shit from those guys. But Greg has been a huge help down here. I mess around with Greg a lot. But him and Caleb and all that, because I do get a little anal retentive here with this. I'm mean for this shit, and I've got to learn and make these mistakes and do all that stuff. And they have certainly been patient, because I can become a little bit of a tyrant out there.
Oh, you think so? He's awful.
But you're going to kill something, hopefully. But I've worked all that out, because it's my lack of experience. So,
Greg, I want you to let Caleb know that Mad Dog's coming down on Wednesday and bringing his grandson. I know that Caleb and them hunted together in that blind last year, so I didn't know if Caleb wanted to ride down so he could see Gabe again. And you can come too and drink with Mad Dog.
I'll tell you what, I'll make it even better. Why don't we just put Caleb and Gabe in that turkey blind themselves and let them have at it? And we'll all drink Bloody Marys and go for it.
Now there you go.
Caleb and Gabe hunted ducks together before down here. Had Caleb running that blind. And to do that, because Gabe is already working on me. He wants to know if it's okay to shoot a turkey with a rifle. He doesn't see the sport in a shotgun. And I lit his little ass up. Inexperienced, You get that turkey in that close to where you can shoot it with a shotgun, why would you want to shoot it with a rifle? He doesn't know. So, if Caleb's all up for it, the opening day of turkey season, those two boys can have a blind to themselves. I'm bored.
But Caleb can't shoot.
Why can't he?
Because Caleb's a good shot. And Gabe's never killed a turkey. Caleb will kill them all. Caleb's a little badass hunter. He's been hunting all his life.
It's not that hard to shoot them with a shotgun. You just got to get them in range. That's the problem. That's the big problem. I don't think many people miss a turkey when they shoot at it. If you're just in the blind like that. And if those two knuckleheads want to go out there and jabber on it and shoot a turkey, I'm all up for it. So it's the adult season. Have at it. Otherwise, I'm going to take Gabe out and give him a spanking for even talking to me about, why would you want to shoot one with a shotgun? Like, that's canned.
Mick, be quiet.
Where's Mick? What's he on
Women
about?
can't pee in a bottle, Mick. Robin's on him. She wants to know how you can stay in a blind 14 hours without having to pee.
I had the piss bottle.
See, a man
I had
can
the
do
piss
it.
bottle in both blinds. Like, you're not getting out. I've got an Nalgene bottle in there, and the only time we did is me and the Colonel had to. The little boys could hold it, but I couldn't bring myself to yanking out that thing.
They wouldn't have noticed.
My God, what the hell is that? And pissing in a bottle. I mean, we were in the average size stand-up shower, the four of us in there trying to sling those guns out. So I didn't want to subject the boys to it. We jumped out real quick and got back in. But I got piss bottles in there because nobody else is getting out. Piss and bottle. I'm on a turkey roll. I am so pumped up.
We had a really nice time. We ate a lot of really good food, and I've told y'all how much I love cooking for those kids. They just eat everything. And the Colonel is just as pleasant to be around as anybody I've ever met. And I about died today when he said I was taking titty shots when I hit his phone. I hadn't heard him say anything like that.
Little boys giggle.
Yeah.
They don't hear much of that stuff.
No.
And certainly with my dirt mouth and that blind, they loved hearing some of that. I can tell a mean story and throw some profanities out there that they hear on the school bus every day, but they're not used to hearing.
Oh, Tina, waking up in that dump. That's a true story, and it was bad. But it was so romantic. We didn't go in that dump till after dark.
People have the problem understanding until you're a SEAL and you do it, like a lot. It's getting to be sunlight, you go into your target and you think, okay, we got to lay up. We need to get in and get under cover. The sun's going to come up. And you get in there and you do all that shit and you get ready and the sun comes up and you're right next to a school, a bus stop of kids that you never knew was there. And that's what happened. We went down a trail on the side of the road in the dark, built a little campfire, and that's where you learn all kinds of cool shit in SEAL team. You can't see past a campfire. You can't see. If you're on the outside of a campfire, you can clearly see how many bugger eaters are eating nut mun around that fire, but you can't see outside of it. And that's what it was. You had a little fire and have a little wine. And
hey, stop it.
I woke up in a dump. It's like, holy shit. Look where we're
Rats
at.
and broken bottles.
What else we got going on? Fly after a dive. Well, that only really applies to your standard 80% nitrogen, 20% oxygen, the air that you're breathing here, because you're going to depth. It depends if you have to decompress. It's just a weird thing. You got to really know what you're talking about. But when you're down and you get the bends when you're down under pressure, your body has to release that nitrogen. You're careful when you come up. And then if you get in an airplane out of that without fully whatever, now you're really going to altitude. I mean, you enhance it. You enhance those nitrogen bubbles in your bloodstream. And so we didn't have a whole lot of restrictions. You just had to know what you did. But we never did a lot of dive anyhow in SEAL team that you needed to decompress for. It's 60 feet for 60 minutes. If you're going below 60 feet and spending any more than 60 minutes, you're going to need to do a little something.
But when we were running the dive courses over in Puerto Rico, we didn't dive the day before they went home. We always did that to go up to the waterfall and do a hike and do PT and go to the beach. But we did not dive and then have the guys hop on a plane early the next morning.
Just paying attention to simple shit.
Hey, Donko.
You got the bends. That's some bad stuff, man. I've never had any of that. One of my favorite times in SEAL team was, I don't know how I got with it, but I spent days with a South Korean family The son was a South Korean SEAL. And we stayed with his family doing this exercise. And his mother, I've always told Diane, she was the most handsome woman I'd ever seen. She was an older woman, but just, she was so pretty without a bit of makeup, anything. And the father had been a sponge diver. And he would go over the side of this boat with an air compressor hose in his mouth. And he was so punch drunk from decades and decades of doing that. And he'd go back out and do it again. It was crazy. I had a great time with him. I gave the father a carton of Marlboro cigarettes for having us. I thought he was just going to fall over. Very cool. So, there you go. Where else are we at?
Do you ever work with Delta Force? Do you have mutual respect, or is there competition? There's always competition.
Yeah, there's always a competition thing. I never worked with a lot of U.S. forces. I worked with Special Forces guys, like about that much. I don't remember doing much of anything with Rangers. I mean, we never really attached to them. We go outside the United States to our counterparts in Great Britain, Australia, all those things. There's not a lot of the in-house stuff. Have we done things together? Yes, but not like that.
I think that all the forces in the military respect each other, but the Marines seem to get a whole lot of respect from SEALs.
Oh yeah, the Delta Force hand-eye coordination facility. If you don't know what that is, the Delta Force hand-eye coordination facility that they had built for those guys. It's a basketball court. That's what they called it to get it done. It's the hand-eye coordination facility. That's how you cheat the government out of their tax dollars and all that shit. Yeah. Oh. Now, good guys. Did a lot with Marines. I did more with Marines than I did anything. Had a great time with those guys. But there's always the rivalries. There's always the insults flying.
Tina says she's 32 and newly divorced. She's studying up in case a phony tries to impress her. You've come to the right place, Tina.
I will hook you up, girl. I will hook you up. You need to stay off those dating websites, especially Christian Mingle. That is the number one, man. Number one. Oh, he's a Christian and a SEAL. He must be legit. Terrible what they do to you guys. So, steady verifying in between hunts. I just got done verifying a bunch of people because I haven't been able to get to it. I've been up since 4. And just verify that.
What John Wayne thing? The John Wayne big cutout that we have, it's down in the barn, if that's what you're talking about.
Never happened to the John Wayne thing. The John Wayne thing, I don't know.
That's what I said. Is it the big cutout?
Yes, they did. No. Yes. No. There's too many here. But,
what are you talking about?
well, I'm trying to get a few questions in. The Coast Guard thing, SEAL team thought it was going to be really clever and knew that the Coast Guard was really dumb. That's a fact. So SEAL team decides, because we can't get enough guys through BUD/S training. They just can't do it no matter what they try. So some smart guy in Spec War said, what if we got some Coast Guard rescue swimmers? Those guys have already been through that. And that Coast Guard rescue swimmer shit is that's tough stuff. There's a lot of hair on that shit. And so they got 15 Coast Guard rescue swimmers, and 2 guys made it. And they were both officers. And the idea was, when you're done with your tour in SEAL team, you can go back to the Coast Guard and work on a buoy tender in Adak, Alaska. But the Navy was smart. They knew those guys would never go back. They're always going to stay SEALs. And as far as I know, those 2 Coast Guard SAR swimmer officers are still active duty SEALs today. They just wear a Coast Guard uniform and they stay in SEAL team. But the Navy canceled that program after one. They did not get the result they thought they were going to. So, no, BUD/S is no joke. There you go. There's rescue swimmers. Yeah, that's tough stuff, man. Really tough stuff. And I don't know the. I have to go back down here. Somebody had asked something. Am I stealing all your? You have a. I don't know about the John Wayne thing. No, dirt bikes on missions. No, there's not a real reason for any of that. Is there some really strange stuff that's been done? Yes. Do other teams? They got all kinds of shit, but they have dirt bikes. I'm sure they do, but snowmobiles, and we got all of it. But are they really needed? I don't know where we'd ride a dirt bike. 2 o'clock in the morning.
When the young guys are training, they go out. They do have dirt bikes on training. I don't know about missions. I don't know anything about SEAL missions, but I know during training they do, and they got these really cool little things. Some guy let us use one down at our courses a few years ago, and it almost looked like a glorified golf cart. What was the name of that thing?
It was a desert patrol vehicle.
Yeah, desert patrol vehicle. So you sit in this thing, it's got roll bars on it. That thing got stuck in the mud. It got stuck all the time, didn't it?
Oh, it's Israeli. And
yeah.
Israel's desert. It was a desert vehicle that they gave to us. I think we had it for 2 months. It was too cool for school. Everybody knew who the hell we were running ops with that. But dirt bikes, jet skis, super turbocharged jet skis, the propeller operated parachute. I mean, everything. It's all there, but how much use, outside of training are you actually going to get? You got to get to the target.
But they would come back and show me videos of them up there all acting like assholes, flying and jumping over those big sand berms. I don't know if they ever used them on a mission, but I know the boys liked training on those things. They had fun.
Yeah, what was that thing called? We had the desert dune buggies. And my buddy, he had the biggest dick in the SEAL team, and known for it. And he rolled one of those things and it crushed his head. And he was never right after that.
What does having a big dick have to do with anything in a dune buggy?
He was known. The guys used to make jokes about it because this was all out in the desert. If you're struggling and you need shade, he can help you out. He'll just hang that thing over you and get all the shade you want.
Oh, Fallon, Nevada?
Yeah. The buggies, Fallon, all that stuff. So.
What's my daughter's name? I want to have to take that away from you.
I haven't had...
He has had no sleep, and he's had no food.
Whoa.
And I got a table full of Mexican food in there, and he has not eaten, so I'm sure when he does eat, he's going to pass right out.
I'm going to bed. I've been butchering turkeys, and just the mental of just constantly scanning for this thing. So, you got a little boy, 13, and they get a little distracted easy. They were troopers, but I was going to be the one to spot. It's just crazy. So you got to make some good decisions. No more Tom Turkey wings or feathers on those things. So, how are we doing?
Good.
Are you up? Are you down? Am I stealing your thunder here? You want me to just go away? I think everybody's ready for me just to cut and run and let you do it. And now the mouse is completely screwed up.
So. I ain't feeling great.
Well, we're all tired. Diane really puts out. That's why we compliment each other, and we do a really good job here for just the hospitality. So the food is all there. If the hunts go bad, at least the food is there, and we're set with that.
What are you doing?
You know what? Lay off.
All kinds of stuff.
Lay off.
All kinds of stuff is popping up.
No, I'm just trying to get this thing back on track.
Hi, Grumpy CPO.
There's Dan Bernath right there. I remember when he got on first got on the website, everybody thought because he put in Grumpy CPO that Dan Bernath had infiltrated the site. We had to calm everybody down. That's not Dan Bernath. So. There's Kevin.
I can't see.
Oh, God.
Or people have never cooked. that would be so hard because I don't measure things. If you've ever watched any of my cooking videos, I sort of just throw stuff in there. And I think you have to be more of a Martha Stewart kind of person that measures and weighs everything, but I could give it a shot. If you've never cooked, I can come up with a good video, something real simple, and put it up for you. Yeah, sure I'll do that.
Okay, I'm still catching shit about this motorcycle stuff. It's just not the thing that is just used. How are we going to get to the target? Oh, let's go get the dirt bikes. It's just, they have them, yes. Is it just a huge thing? Like helicopters? No. Do they use them? Yes. Do they use the jet skis? Yes. But how often? You know, it's just, watch what I say here. I think it was taken in terms of how big of use they are. We used to drive everything around training exercise to get back and forth. Snowmobiles, anything gets out there and gets back. Dirt bikes, dune buggies.
Yeah, but he's still not Dan Bernath, Grumpy says.
There you go. What else?
Oh,
what else?
And Terry is coming down next weekend too. Just in the night, and take some pictures and stuff, I guess. So we'll have Terry hop on here.
And they're not going in the blind. That was the thing. They were, Mad Dog and Terry are going to sit in a blind and watch me and Gabe shoot a turkey. And that ain't happening. There is never going to be anyone else go out except me and that person. 2 boys or 1 boy or something. For a lot of reasons of what happened out there with the colonel. And
well, but it sounds like a good idea at the time, but honest to God, you were sitting in very uncomfortable chairs. Don said he's a wonder he didn't get another blood clot. The colonel's back was killing, but you can't talk. You can't whisper. You can't be making any noise with your jacket. You can't be turning fast. You are just sitting there, sweating, getting mosquito bit, and you're not even shooting, so you don't want to go out in that damn blind.
So total for those 3 birds, and I did it last year, I spent 2 days, an entire weekend, 12 hours a day in a goose and a duck blind to get birds. I can do it, but there's no reason to add any other confusion to it. If somebody that does not have a purpose for being out there, that you're subjected to it, and you're fidgeting, and you're making noise, no matter where you are, these birds are coming. There's no reason to do it. If you don't have a gun, you know, I don't care if I ever shoot another turkey. It's getting the other guys to. If you don't have a gun out with me to actively, then you don't need to be out there. Now, there's a difference with kind of like Terry going duck hunting with us. A duck blind is a little bit different. You can stand up and see the birds from the difference. You can shoot the shit. You can't do it in the turkey blind, and you cannot do it in a deer blind, a deer stand or anything. We had deer, I don't know how many deer we had on us the other day, 7 or so. They were within feet of us with these turkeys. And if you spook them, we had blue jays. They're terrible rats. They will rat you out to every speed. They'll get up and squawk and tell everyone there is something here that means to harm us. And I was grabbing those boys. I was like, don't startle that blue jay. And those deer, if we spook these deer, every turkey is going with them. It was amazing what we were able to accomplish out there. But it's not from anything else except you just don't need to be there. I don't need the added pressure of strap hangers, not on a deer or turkey hunt. And
K9 Lover, Don took the camera, the colonel had a camera. There was nothing, you can't film. It's a really tight quarters, and you can't talk, and you're sitting there for 6 or 7 hours quiet, and then there's nothing to film.
That's terrible. I got a little bit of footage of us in the morning in there. I'll show you how tight this thing was. That the colonel's sole purpose was videotaping. And the colonel was more worried about what I was telling the boys to shoot through the blind with and stuff like that, correcting that. And it was the turkeys. And I told him, I said, look, it was getting tense up there. It's like, shoot through the window. If you watch that turkey video of me, I shot right through, put a big hole in the blind, and I threw the window on it. And the colonel's like, no, don't shoot through his blind. And I was like, I don't give a shit if we're in a Corvette. You shoot right through that thing. Shoot right through it. Boom,
No, Robert, I couldn't go for that many hours without talking either. That's why he don't want me to go turkey hunting. He knows I couldn't be quiet.
2 big holes in the blind. And no, shoot right through it. I just patched it up with some mosquito net and some spray glue.
Oh, we got video of you shooting through that.
Oh yeah.
Through that screen.
No, I mean it. I don't care. We're not opening that and them being able to look in. They can already look in enough. You got to sit real still and just shoot right through it. And the other one, I told we had something coming in front of us, and it was between the blind where the colonel was supposed to be. I said, boys, if they get right there, we're going to shoot them. And that colonel said, don't shoot that blind. And I don't correct colonels very much, but I said, Colonel, I don't give a flipping shit about that blind. There's nobody in there. They can put all the pellets through that they want. I want dead turkeys on the ground. And they did a good job. So, no, you can always patch the stuff. You can't pass up on a good shot. So, good boys. We had a good time. I'm just stealing it all tonight. I'm on a roll
no,
now.
I don't. I'm not doing great.
No, she's done. And no, I don't. Future input on weapons and vehicles. I don't even know what these guys got rifles that shoot around corners now. I don't even know where they're going. We had open sights. NVGs and lasers were something that was just coming along with us. I don't have any input. There's nothing I can do. I just call them pussies for not using open sights like we were trained to. They're lasers. These guys look like Jedi Knights now, man. Pussies. Where are we going?
No, the house is not done, but the living room of the house is done, and now it's time to this office has got to be torn apart. There, y'all can't see it, but it is yellow and orange trees on this wallpaper, and it's falling off the walls. This office is terrible, so this has to go, and then the upstairs wallpaper has to go. So I think this house is going to be a work in progress for several years. Just can't get it done all at one time.
Well, guys asked a question on here. I just caught it. Have I ever had to hunt food on an operation? No, I haven't. Never got into that survival situation. I could go into survival training because I used to run all that stuff, but the only time I remember anybody having to do that was a winter warfare platoon lost in Labrador, and you hear Mad Dog talking about how bad Labrador is, and I had been there. It's just Labrador is just brutal, terrible, and they got stranded, kind of stuck out there, and nobody could get to them, and they wound up for a week out there with their M14s shooting tree martins and eating them to survive. So I've shot a porcupine for the guys and showed them how to clean a porcupine, and ate it, cooked it up for them and ate it. A little bit of garlic, it's all good. Porcupine's got a lot of fat when you're teaching survival. And we always taught survival in the worst case scenario, like your plane crashes in the Amazon. That was survival that had always been taught. I went through Marine Corps survival school in the desert, and Coast Guard survival school in Alaska, different elements up there, but it was always catching fish and eating cactus in the desert to get moisture. And after Luttrell's incident, the lone survivor incident, and another with the Army of guys that were forced to evade, a couple of dudes, the whole world of survival went straight out the window. They realized real quick that everything we had been teaching these guys, while entertaining and great, how to start a fire and do all that shit, was basically not necessary. That within a few days you're going to, the bottom line of what they figured out with Luttrell and that is, unless you crash a plane in the Amazon, which is remote, you are going to be around some kind of civilian population. They may not be friendly to you, but they have crops, they have vehicles, they have weapons. They're teaching a lot of lock picking, jump starting, stealing vehicles that you can forage at night for what they have and take to sustain yourself. But you're only going to have to do this for a couple of days, and you can use their resources whether they're friendly or not. So there's a lot of really good training that's going on now, more focused on that. Instead of teaching you how to start a fire with a piece of flint and a rock and catching fish, that's not really necessary. Urban survival is the big one now. To the point, one of the coolest things that they're doing for this, because of some of those incidences, is teaching these guys urban survival and flying you all over the country. And the next thing you know, you are in handcuffs. You got a bag over your head, the both of you, in the back seat of a car, and you are in the worst neighborhood in some of the biggest cities in the United States, Philadelphia, New York, all that. And when you get out of those cuffs and you get your stuff off at 2 o'clock in the morning, you are out there for a period of time. You've got to find and document all the routes of travel out of there. You've got to find a water source, food sources. This is eating out of dumpsters, finding faucets you can drink out of, how you're going to get out of this thing, bus routes, getting money. I mean, you're left with nothing. And to finish that school, you are going to get out of that city. That's urban survival. Urban survival is much more useful than some of the jungle survival, but I still love teaching jungle survival and all that.
Happy birthday, Justin.
There you
Donko,
go.
this was Don and I used to go to a Costa Rica, and a beautiful Costa Rican girl had just come back from Bali, and she came back with all this jewelry, and a couple of friends of mine that live there in Costa Rica, she brought it over before she put it into her shop, and that's where I bought it. It's beautiful. It's white beads, and so I just was so proud of this thing. I couldn't wait to tell everybody where I got it. And about 6 months after I came home from Costa Rica, I went in Walmart. They sell them at Walmart. So I don't know, the whole Bali thing, I don't know if that bitch lied to me trying to make money or not, but I love it anyway, but that's what that is.
Now we looking here. Take a couple more. I'm sorry, sometimes we can't. You get me on something and trying to get to all the questions. I know that you got to email me the questions, because we get on here a little bit before we go on, about 30 minutes, and we're writing down what you guys are talking about. And perhaps that's some of the best things, to get on and just write that down, because me and Diane are listening.
Jimmy wants to know, did you ever get to see Pat Flying Spider?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I used to have the coolest field trips on the planet. Going up there, and he would put all the kids in the cockpit, put the helmets on them. I used to go up, and those were the planes that used drogue chutes when they would land, and the chute would come out of the back, and then once it slowed the plane down, they would cut that away. And I would be with one of his buddies in a truck, and we would go out there and bundle up the chute and take it out of there. I used to stand alerts with him, go up there, and he used to love telling that story about his friends jumping his ass, going, Don, you got to get that kid to stop throwing those darts. Because I would sleep in a bunk in there with all the guys that were on alert, but I couldn't sleep. And there was a dart board, and I'd be out there at 2 o'clock in the morning while these guys were trying to sleep, going, bunk, thunk.
Hi, Sparky.
And my mother tells it, I remember it. He used to call her and say, I'll be over the farm in 15 minutes, get all the kids outside. And we would run outside while him and his buddies, this is old school, they would put on this air show in those F-102s over the farm, just doing all that. We'd stand there and watch. And the last thing he would do was fly inverted as close to the top of the silo to the one time my mother fainted. He flew so close. And that silo's 70 feet off of the ground. Whoosh. Yeah, he was a freak show.
What'd they do? Did they take John Wayne's
star
off of Hollywood?
No, I hope they did not.
Is that what they did?
I hope they did not.
Are they threatening to take John Wayne's star? Why?
I know what it is now. John got into some, back in those early 70s. I mean, how far are we going back here, guys? Some racial stuff, some homophobic stuff on a talk show. Guys, how far back are we going to go with this stuff? How far back? I mean, where's it going to go? To remove John Wayne, the guy that did so much for this country without even serving in the military, that you would do that. You feel the need to, over something that happened in the 70s, over 20 or 30 minutes, where he just spilled it. Might as well take it out of me right now for using the word faggot on here. I mean, how fucking far back are we going to go with this shit? There's some of these people that they're grilling over what they did in college 30 years ago. I mean, really? I don't get it. That's why I don't even want to go past my mailbox anymore. I'm just going to die right here with a duck call in my mouth and be fine with it. I don't need that shit. What do you think? Toots.
Mad Dog's blowing up
Mad
your
Dog's
phone.
calling because his son wants to use a rifle down here because he doesn't know what the hell his grandson's doing there. Hollywood Stars, Civil War, different time. I will tell you, a lot of guys, I will tell you this. When you get into political correctness and you think this is a new phenomenon, you would be wrong. And all you got to do is read the book, The Gray Ghost of the Confederacy. And it was Colonel Mosby. It was Robert Mosby. It's a fantastic book. Mosby was probably the original Special Forces SEAL guy. He led cavalry troops during the Civil War, and he was a total hooligan renegade. He was so aggressive to going behind enemy lines, capturing Union generals out of their bed and spanking them with a sword. Custer captured some of his men and hung them, and then he went and him and Custer had a terrible rivalry, and he captured Custer's men and hung them. Terrible. That's what went on. And his unit, the war stories that went on, these guys riding through these encampments, firing their pistols, and Mosby damn near being captured, Mosby being shot in the chest, one captured while he was getting his shave, and but his group was known as Mosby's Raiders. This is Civil War, the Confederacy, Mosby's Raiders, and Jefferson Davis, president of the Confederacy, told him to change the name to Mosby's Rangers. It didn't sound good. Political correctness all the way back in the Civil War for a cavalry unit. So, and that's a fantastic book. That dude had a set on him like that. The Gray Ghost of the Confederacy. So.
Yeah, Justin, you're talking about Nancy Pelosi. That tickled me to death the other night when, Nancy Pelosi in San Francisco, she's like, bring them all in, let them all come over here. And when he said, well, we'll just bring them right there and drop them off right there at your place, that tickled the shit out of me.
I thought, how clever is this guy? People underestimate Trump. I don't care what you think of him. You gotta admit the guy's a little clever, and he's just, yeah, okay. You want sanctuary cities where we're not going to allow ICE to enforce our laws? Why don't we just load them up in buses and drop them off in your town, and you deal with them? And when they escape, we'll catch them on the way out. But you guys support them. I thought that was so clever of him. And I don't know how the guy gets anything done. Now they're all on this, getting that Mueller report so that they can, because they're so butthurt, because that got off. Okay, we're going to go over this thing and we're going to find something to go after you about. And by the way, we want your tax returns for the last 5 years. I don't know how the guy gets anything done. I would have put a pistol in my mouth a long time ago. It's doing no good for the country, and Pelosi can call him childish and unpresidential like all she wants. But if they would just shut up and do, it's turning into a Gallagher thing. You're the subordinates. You're supposed to support. Let's move on with the country and tackle some bigger problems than my flipping tax returns and the silly Mueller report that said no collusion. So what is it? There might be some obstruction of justice. He's the president. Obstruct all you want.
God,
just shut.
I'm going to take this guy and feed him and put him to bed.
I was doing pretty good here now.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring it up. It's all his fault.
Shut up and leave the guy alone. Let him do his job. Is that it? I think I got to get something to eat. I ate a big sandwich in the blind. Diane made us sandwiches to go out. Man, that boy had a big sandwich.
And I sent pudding.
Pieces of cheese out there. And I came back and there was nothing about me that wanted to eat anything. And that boy sat down and just shoveled. Oh, man, I've never seen anybody eat like them two little boys. So, are we good?
We're good, guys. Thank you all for being on here. We appreciate it. We'll put some more pictures and stuff up tomorrow so you guys can see how happy the little boys were.
Yeah. And Mad Dog's up. He's calling right now. I'm sure he's either bitching at me about his videos not being edited the way he wants them to, although he doesn't know how to do it himself. Or it's his grandson and why I'm not letting him shoot a turkey with a rifle. I don't know. But he's coming up. So,
see y'all tomorrow, guys. Bye.
Terry, thank you, buddy. I will see you up here. And we already got plans for you. So don't worry that you're not going out in that blind. Trust me. Trust me.